installment of the scale rail Baja bug build. So we're going to do the rear bumper. So first thing I did was take my metal ruler and get a couple measurements. I got the width of the transmission and then how far out I wanted it to go, and I added them all up. So it's going to be about 75 millimeters out off the back end. So I set it up on the back of the cage here, back of the wheel arch, and I marked. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of bends, set it up there, and then just see how it's going to be. This is not just going to be a square. We're going to throw a couple of short bends in there. So it's going to be 75 and then about 15 millimeters, and then U back around. After this first bend, get that where I want it, where I think I want it. Get that first bend, set it up there, look at it, and then just flip the piece around. It doesn't matter where my mark is since we have the hard stuff. How far am I going to bend it? Don't know yet. Flip it over. I'm not even going to check it on there. What I do is I take out that bending post, and then you can kind of look down it and make sure everything's nice and flat. That way when you bend it, they're not like up and down and it's all wonky. So get that set all nice and flat. Put all the way against the hard stop, locked it, and there's our next bend. Okay, so now these other little bends are going to be next. Same thing, flip it over. This should be pretty close when we're done. Now, looking at it, I'm just going to have to add a little bit more bend on those outer ones. Everything's nice and symmetrical, however, I don't think I'm going to use it. Alright, so we got our piece bent with the tower fixture. Okay. Set that there so you guys get an idea. So this is going to be something like that. And now we're going to make a couple of bars to come out from the back. I do plan on making a 3D printed big silly motor to go in the back here. I don't want to have it that tight here. I kind of want to have like a little bit of a, not a wheelie bar, but kind of, because this thing's probably going to get a little rad in the sand. So we got this bar set up. Basically we have the tower fixture with the table sitting on top of it to hold it back up. And we're taking measurements on the left and the right side, just to make sure. That's about 55 millimeters, just to make sure everything's nice and flat and square. We're going to get the side tacked up. So filler. Just tacking that in place. So now what we're going to do, gently remove it from the tower. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple measurements, like back a little bit, guess that angle, and then up. So I'm going to try to mimic this. So I'm going to measure this distance here. Actually, I don't have to measure it. I remember what it was. So this bend to this bend is precisely 15 millimeters. So I'm going to go back about 20, bend up, and then after 15 millimeters, bend up again. So I'm going to cut a piece, two pieces, 85 millimeters long, and I'm going to get those marked for the bends. My first mark for a bend is at 25. So it's going to go to 25, and then it's going to bend, right? 15, and then whatever that difference is. I guessed a little high. The overall distance right here is 55. So I know it's going to be less than 55 since we're going to go back, and then we're going to go up. So I have everything marked out here. And you can run this bender in your vise also. I like this big plate because I like to work on the welding table here and just, I don't know, take notes, write them down on the table. It's something I find myself doing. So I have this set. I'm going to do the bend. I think it was, yeah, we'll do that one bar. And I'll grab my other piece, do the same thing, do the deeper bend first. So this is going to be the part that touches the top of the bumper, and this is going to be where it attaches to the chassis, where the tab is. So now we're going to shorten our hard stop to the smaller dimension. The reason I did that is if you do the shorter dimension and then the longer dimension, the piece is kind of like not as secure in the bender, so it's a little bit harder to keep everything square. So we do the deeper bend, and then we shorten our hard stop, so we're actually going to move to a smaller section to hold it. Make sure everything's nice and flat. Oh, good thing I checked because it was not. Okay. And then we're just doing that first hole, but it looks like I'm going to need to go further. So let's actually go to the second hole. More. Alright. Test fit. It's pretty close. So now we're going to do the other one. Basically what I was doing is grabbing the piece and then set it here. So remember, I made it taller than it needed to be so we could trim it down. That way we didn't have any weird problems. Okay, so now what I got to do is cut this so it sits square on there. Right now it's too long, so I got them cut close to where I need to have them. This is the bottom, this is the top, so we're going to cope the top, and I'm going to use these JCL products. This is a soft jaw that's meant to hold 3/16 diameter stuff. That just keeps your tubes and your rod from getting marred up. So what I like to do is mark where I'm going to make it. This is obviously going to go like this. So this side, if you look at it head on, center line, center line. So we're going to be filing it 90 degrees opposite of where it is. So just, I marked it so there's a reference so I don't mess up or forget. Throw it in the soft jaws. And just 3/16 round file. Go kind of slow, get it started. You're just making a little groove. Doesn't have to be super deep. Alright, so we got it started. You can kind of, I'm just kind of holding my fingers loosely on it, kind of as a guide. Not really putting any pressure on it with my fingers, but now that it's kind of worn in, you can get it in there a little bit deeper. And you can check it with it on a 3/16 rod. You don't have to go super deep with this stuff. With the tubing, I like to go a little bit deeper, but with the rod, not so much. Just so we have a nice fit between this piece and the next one. So there's one, and then do the same thing on the other side. Good. So that's it. Just a little tiny fish mouth. Now we got the pieces set up. Now we're going to set them in place. I don't know what fixture I'm going to use yet to hold it, but we will use something. Maybe we'll use a flat fixture. So we use the flat fixture to clamp that bar upright, and then delicately set the car in place to get everything lined up. So I want to have the back of the bumper nice and square. I want to have it touching the HD threaded tab made out of 13 gauge, which is mounted on the chassis. So with the piece set up there, yes, I had to change my shirt. With that piece set up there, take one of your square tabs. You can actually hold it up there and check it for square. Then we'll get this sucker tacked up. There we go. So I'm not going to tack it on the outside because that'll pull it down. I'm actually going to tack the top part of this tab so it'll kind of pull it up into this bar. So it will keep things from moving too much. We got that. Doesn't look like anything has moved. Now we'll tack it again. Alright, so now we're going to set up the passenger side. So I loosened the flat mount, slide the 3/16 rod into position here. Push it tight to kind of clamp it, and then however you want to tighten it up. There's a wing nut on the bottom, close, snug. And now that it's held, set up how you want it. We're going to get this one tacked up. Double check, make sure everything's as it should be. Looks good. Square. So with those bars in place, we're going to add a couple of braces in between, and they are coked, fit. Just kind of get them close so they're super tight in there, and then set them up where you think you want them. I think I want to have they already got the bottom one on there. I think I want to have this one just tall enough that I can put a scale license plate on there, so probably something like that. Scale license plate stickers handy, so that looks pretty close. So I'm going to use that gap. This is my reference. Then I'm going to check everything again with the SMS plate, make sure everything's square. So after everything's checked for square, then we're going to tack this also. But you can see it's a pretty tight fit. It's not really moving around. We got that set up on there. The rear bumper is pretty much there. Obviously there's going to be a bar going across that back there above the back window area. So yeah, it's coming together.